Freshman Congressman Joe Sestak is under fire for agreeing to be the keynote speaker at an upcoming event hosted by the controversial group CAIR. Many of his colleagues are outraged and that he would associate with an organization that they claim refuses to denounce Hezbollah and Hamas. The congressman sent us this statement: "I'm a staunch supporter of Israel and the Jewish community, as I am of the Muslim community. This is why I'm attending and speaking of my beliefs at this banquet, not any of its fundraising activities, where 250 of my Muslim constituents are expected to attend the event." Joining us now is the author of America Alone, Mark Steyn. Mark, also, while they have not specifically condemned Hamas or Hezbollah, CAIR has condemned violence. It had a signed statement in 2005. It condemned religious extremism and the use of violence against innocent lives. They never seem to get credit for that. Why not?
Well, I think for one reason, because these condemnations tend to be very vague and very general. And within the organization, CAIR has had significant numbers of people who've been arrested, who've been convicted, who've been deported because of ties to terrorism funding, shipping goods to prohibited terrorist states like Libya and Syria. They're an organization in which problematic people nest, and American congressmen should not be making them mainstream and respected.
But Mark, look, here's a guy, Congressman Sestak, newly elected, by the way, decides he wants to go to an event where he gets to address 250 of his constituents. If his constituents are there, they're participating, shouldn't they have the opportunity to see their congressperson in their venue? And what's wrong with servicing your constituents like that?
Well, if those constituents are supporting a problematic organization and he wants to give them a speech explaining what's problematic about that organization, look, don't take it from a right-wing nut like me. Senator Barbara Boxer of California rescinded an award to someone from CAIR because she was concerned that the links and associations they have with various terrorist groupings and groups that support terrorists is simply unacceptable.
But that's a different issue. Here he gets to speak to the organization, and wouldn't you think it's important that he gets up there, expresses, in like the statement he gave us, that we told you just a few moments ago, strong support for Israel. The people in the audience, including members of CAIR, get to hear a point of view they may not otherwise hear, and it's called dialogue, which is healthy in our democracy.
Well, dialogue up to a point. At previous CAIR rallies, for example, they've chanted slogans like down with the Jews, descendants of the apes.
That's why they need to hear what Sestak has to say. This is not a rally, by the way. It's a banquet. And look, you don't have to agree with everything the organization stands for, but why not let them hear his point of view?
Because we are now 5 years into a long struggle in which we are trying to encourage moderate, responsible, mainstream Muslim voices to emerge. The founder of CAIR says that he thought the Quran should be the highest authority in the United States and Islam should be the only religion on earth. That is one of the two men who founded CAIR. This is not an organization that mainstream American political figures should be assisting in passing off as the responsible, respectable voice of Islam in America.
Hey, Mark, welcome to the program. Welcome back, I should say.
Hey, good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you, my friend. I want to talk about some of these controversial figures that have been associated with this group. There are many. There are questions about their original funding and their current funding and their support for some of these organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. Do you see, or we've been able to confirm, that they are in fact getting such support?
Yeah, I think you can say that there are enough significant figures in CAIR who have been associated with not just Hezbollah and Hamas, but, for example, with Islamist terrorist groups in Pakistan, with terrorist groups right around the globe, that this, in fact, is a front group that assists in the mainstreaming of jihad in America. And I think that is deeply problematic.
Sestak even was quoted in one of these articles saying, "I can't find where it's ever condemned Hamas and Hezbollah by name." Now, if they won't do that basic, simple thing, and he can't find it, then why would he speak to an organization that won't condemn known terror groups?
Yes, I think that's right. I think generalized condemnations of violence are not what's necessary here. Yeah. CAIR is a very peculiar group. It's a very bullying group. A couple of years ago, it was complaining about the comic strip BC. This was on the same day that a bunch of Hindus had been burned to death in Bangladesh. Christian churches had been torched in Nigeria, and a whole bunch of Turks and Britons were blown up in Istanbul. Well, yet to CAIR, the only issue was this Islamophobic comic strip.
Right, but
this is an organization in denial about the reality of Islamic violence in the world.
Have they been successful then in intimidating opposition? I mean, more recently we see their involvement with these flying imams, and now a lawsuit is now ensued. There's a threat of a lawsuit against the people that warned the airlines that they were involved in suspicious behavior. We'll see if that comes up. I know they've gone after many of my fellow radio hosts. They've gone after their advertisers. Anytime I see that, I view that as an attempt to silence people that they don't agree with.
That's right. They've tried to have me fired from 2 Canadian magazines and the Chicago Sun-Times. So I take it personally. I regard them as the most obnoxious bullies. They're not people who are interested in dialogue, whatever this congressman says. They are, in fact, an organization that does its best to silence people by getting them fired from their jobs, by, as you say, cutting off their advertisers, by doing all the worst kind of bullying techniques. They just don't get America.
And Mark, let's not silence Congressman Sestak's opportunity to speak to this group then, and let's have free and open dialogue and let him give them his point of view.
If you want dialogue with someone who thinks the Quran should replace the U.S. Constitution, then
I'm not sure that's their position, Mark. I want dialogue with everybody.
Well, I want dialogue with you, Alan. I always enjoy it.
Thanks for being here. Coming up.